אנו מקשרים עצמנו לכל הצדיקים האמיתים שלנו, לכל הצדיקים האמיתים שוכני אף הקדוש משבעת הם רבנו הקדוש צדיק יסוד עולם נחמן נובע מכוח חוכמה רבנו נחמן מפגה וצמחה נחמן מאומן ידע חוצות תגן עלינו ועל כל ישראל אמן. Okay, so section 7 is where we left off?
Yes.
So just a little summary to get back into the topic. So Rabbeinu explained up until this point that in order to merit the bonanut of the Torah, a person needs holy wealth, right?
Mm.
Which is only possible when a person has arechut yamim, length of days. So the length of days is the kli to accept that ashirut, which then enables you to attain hidbonanut. Shehi ba'a mishlemut eira shakavim, and the arechut yamim is only possible when it's only perfected, or it only comes when you perfect the concept of fear, which is in 3 pillars. So arechut yamim is only possible when you have yirat shamayim. And that yirat shamayim or yirah needs to be split into 3. Yirat shamayim, yirat haram, mora harav, and mora avaim. The fear of the Hashem, the fear of the Rav, and the fear a son has before, or a daughter has before. Technically we're talking about the man here, with to go to the inyan of Mammon, of fear of father and mother. Okay. By the way, this is what happens whenever the tzaddik is with the talmid. All of this is occurring. When the tzaddik is with the talmid has the mora shamayim, yirat shamayim. The talmid has the fear of the father, fear of the Rav, and obviously both of them have to have the yirat of father and mother. So the Rabbeinu is going to speak about at the end, I think, the tikkun with the tzaddik and the talmid. Unless it's a different lesson, it could be lesson 61 if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, there is a tikkun over there with the tzaddik and the talmid that this happens also. Which we're going to talk about talmidim hagunim and all this stuff, but I think it might be lesson 61. Regardless, so that's what we're talking about. So the fear needs to be in 3 pillars. That's what allows you to attain arechut yamim. Arechut yamim allows for ashirut, holy wealth, and then you attain hidbonanut. And a person needs to reveal this fear through pekidat hakarot, through whenever barren women are able to get pregnant. That's when the fear is revealed at its highest form. As we talked about a couple sections ago. What's the pasuk again? I forget what the pasuk was. Ur-ada, 1 second. I forget how it goes. Like chayin, like a person, or re'ada. Let me see. Pasuk is. Yeah, what did it say? Ra'ada achzatam sham chil kayoleda. Exactly, chil kayoleda. Like the Ra'ada achzatam sham. Ra'ada is like this inyan of fear. Was grasped over there. Chil kayoleda. The pain is like a woman who gives birth. So this fear is what we talk about. A woman who gives birth, or a woman who gets pregnant. Okay. So now Rabbeinu says, how is that possible when the tzaddik recounts over sipur masiot, and specifically sipur masiot from ancient years, and this is all to wake people up from their spiritual slumber that we talked about. A person lacks sechel in their avodat Hashem, they lack chiyut. That means because a person doesn't have kavanah, doesn't have sechel in their avodat Hashem, he's lacking vitality, he lacks life. Yeah. And it says, we know in the pasuk, chokhmat adam ta'ipanav, or and we say wisdom brings life to its possessor. So chokhmah is real chiyut, it's real vitality, it's life. And when you lack chokhmah and avodat Hashem, when you lack sechel, the avodat Hashem stays below. It's not able to go up. So Rabbeinu says, person needs to wake this man up, and that's what the tzaddik does with sipur masiot, especially sipur masiot b'shanit aminot, which is the ultimate tikkun, which essentially repairs everything else. And all of this is in order to wake people up from their spiritual sleep. And now we're going to explain that there's a condition that you need to tell the sipur masiot before proper students, which is what we started with the class last week. Okay.
שעושה לעורר בני אדם, הוא צריך לשמור עצמו מתלמידים שאינם הגונים, כדי שלא יהיה נדבק מו מהרע שלהם, שלא יזיק לו, כמו שאמרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, כל מלמד לתלמיד שאינו הגון וכן אסור חכמינו זיכרונם לברכה לכתוב על אור בהמה טמאה שנאמר למען תהיה תורה השם בפיך מי המותר לפיך. Levicha. Weiter.
Yeah, do one or two more lines.
וכשלומד עם אחר הוא בחינת כתיבה, כי הלשון הוא בחינת לשוני עת סופר מהיר שנחקק ונכתב על לב התלמיד, כמו שכתוב כתובים על לוח לבך.
Okay, one more line.
ועל כן צריך שלא יהיו דבריו נכתבים על בחינת אור בהמה טמאה, היינו תלמיד שאינו הגון.
So now Rabbi Nachman is going to explain why it cannot work when you are explaining the Sipor Masiot, or why the tzaddik, when you recount the Sipor Masiot, to be done before a talmid who's not hagun. What we talked about is a fitting student. And I think we talked about this last time, what the inyan of hagun really means.
Yeah, I think it was someone that wants to come back.
Exactly. Someone whose kavanah is good, but someone who doesn't come here with
Wants to test the side.
Exactly, wants to test and wants to pick apart what the words of the tzaddik are. Like Rabbi Natan explained in the Kutei Rachot. So what do we see here? So now we see when a person engages to wake people up from their spiritual slumber, spiritual sleep, he needs to guard himself. When this person who's engaged in this avodah needs to guard himself, protect himself from talmidim she'enam hagunim, from talmidim who are not proper. So what we're talking about here is that the waking up of people from spiritual slumber requires that person that you're waking up to be already a little bit kasher in the first place. To be kasher in general.
To be kasher?
To be kasher, like kosher.
Okay.
And this is what we talked about when Rabbeinu introduced the idea of what a person falls into spiritual slumber, that they're spiritual sleep. That there are people who are upright individuals, but just fall because of one thing. Whether it's tavat achila or something. Rabbeinu introduced the concept of there are people that are anashim ksherim, there are upright individuals that fall from the Avodat Hashem, either because of some other tava or because tavat achila ushtiya, because of falling to your desire for eating. So Rabbeinu introduces the concept of being kasher already in the first place, which means he's already hinted to the point that the tzaddik needs to engage with this person, only the person who's already kosher to begin with. But there is another inyan that the tzaddik is able to work with other people, but in a completely different fashion. Sipurei Masiot though, something different. It's reserved for people that already come in with the proper mentality, let's just say. Now we're going to explain what that is. So let's see. Why is that so? Why does this person who's engaged in drawing people close to Hashem need to protect himself from talmidim who are not proper? Because isn't the entire goal to bring everyone? So what's the idea here? Because the issue is the evil that is within these people will cleave onto this tzaddik. Will cleave onto the person engaging and drawing others close. To make sure that that evil doesn't harm you. This is why you have to protect yourself from talmidim who are not hagunim. As it says in the Gemara Chulin, Daf Kuf Lamed Gimel, page 133a. Anyone who teaches a talmid who is not proper, it says over there that it's as if nofel begehinam, he like falls in the gehinam. And we talked about this. It's as if he throws zorek even lemarkulis. It's as if he throws an even, a stone, into the markulis, which is a form of avodah zarah. Essentially, you are committing a sort of idol worship. So why does it go that far? What is this idea over there? And by the way, Rabbeinu introduces this concept in another lesson as well, Torah Nun Tet, where he explains the Heichal HaKodesh. How a person who builds the holy chamber, which is the aspect of Yerushalayim, what are we talking about when a person does this? It's a person who draws people close to Hashem. A person who's engaged in bringing people close to Avodat Hashem, drawing people close to God. But all of this, a person needs to be careful, to be careful of the evil that is within each and every person that he's drawing close, and to make sure that evil doesn't attack you and doesn't harm you. Because obviously there's an interaction happening now with the evil that now wakes up because it sees the good is trying to get up, and now it's going to start attacking more. It's like the Yetzer Hara knows he's losing, so he's going to put all his force to make it more difficult. And that the person affecting this change, the person who's engaged in changing the person in front of him, will have to go to battle with that evil, because obviously, where's the evil going to attack?
He's going to attack the tzaddik, or he's going to attack the individual who's trying to.
No, the tzaddik.
Okay.
Of course, the individual is going to have to beat his Yetzer Hara to draw close.
What does that mean? They start attacking the tzaddik.
the Yetzer Hara of the individual like you. Meaning there's klipot that are surrounding you, that are in with it, that are...
Like the tzaddik might get a taiva for it? Like, because I'm not
I don't
trying
know
to say
how,
anything.
No, I know.
I'm just trying to understand.
What's the implication of what that means?
Like I'm trying to think of Rabbi Nachman, like, battling the Yetzer Hara.
How
Like, for me, I see him as zero Yetzer Hara.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
No, he got to the Madriga where, for he himself, his Yetzer Hara was not... I wouldn't say it's necessarily Yetzer Hara, but let's just say it's a klipa that he needs to overcome, and let's say it's just an obstacle.
Yeah.
But Rabbeinu seems to be saying that that evil within the other individual can harm him.
Okay.
For example, the tzaddik won't choose himself, God forbid, to go to an evil place. Right?
Like he won't go.
He won't.
Just gonna go.
Chad v'shalom, a tzaddik won't ever go to a club.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's because he knows that the evil within the club, regardless of whether he's affected by the ta'ava or not, because he has no more ta'avot anymore, the evil itself affects him.
Yeah.
The place itself affects him. I feel like it's the same way with the evil that is in every individual. You're never going to go down to that place, but by default, you're trying to bring that person close. It's automatically, you know what I mean? There's an automatic danger because everything that you're trying to bring close is also coming up with all the bad that's within this man. And now you have to go there. It's like what Rabbeinu explains in lesson 8 of Likutei Moharan. He says that the tzaddik, there's a very special tzaddik, and only a very special tzaddik, it's tzaddik gamur. Because it says in the Gemara, and I'll explain what this tzaddik gamur does that another tzaddik cannot do. He has to be a complete and total tzaddik. Tzaddik gamur, by the way, means he's completely separated. Shemafrish atov min hara completely. He's completely separated the good from the evil, which means that not only does he not have any desires, there's not a single gam of evil that falls into him that to the point where he's not even afraid of sinning. Meaning, even if he were in a room or tempted by it, he won't be afraid of it. There are tzaddikim who are afraid of the evil of others. But this tzaddik is not afraid at all. What did it say? I forget what it says. That he fears he fears the sins that are within his hand, meaning within his capability. Even though he will never do it. But he fears that he could possibly, God forbid, do it. Yeah. This tzaddik gamodo is not even there. He's completely removed evil totally to the point where it can't even attack. Like it can't even grasp him. Yeah. Now, this tzaddik gamur, when he encounters the evil side, because he's going to provoke the evil side and try to grab the sparks of holiness from the evil side, he has to go to the channel from which the evil side receives its force. Now, what that means, for example, is this. The evil side has many different tablets from which it receives its strength. Now, one person might be inclined to a certain desire more than another individual is. Right? There's 4 elements, right? Esh, ruach, mayim, afar. Fire, earth,
dust.
Dust.
Fire, earth, wind.
Fire, earth, water, fire, earth, water. Mayim, esh, so water, fire, ruach, wind, and afar. Exactly. And earth. So, you have the 4 elements. Each of the 4 elements is specialized in a certain tava. For example, wind is this idea of gava, air, haughtiness, right? All these desires that come from this. And that earth is depression. All the tavot that come from depression. Fire is all the raw desires that entice a person. Sexual immorality, anger, all that stuff. Of course, there's food, you know what I mean? Everything comes, and then of course we have water. I forget that. Water is laziness. So we have all these ideas, a certain tavot that come from a certain element. Now the tzaddik sees a rasha, right? For example, the klipa of Esav. The klipa of Esav is going to receive its strength from one of these channels. But for the tzaddik to provoke this klipa and Esav, he cannot provoke him unless he's a tzaddik gamor. Why? Because the tzaddik needs to go into the channel from which Esav, or the klipa, receives its force from. And within that channel, break the channel completely. He has to be in there, fight the tava from within the channel, from within the darkness, and then break it and retrieve the mitzvot. But to do that, he has to sink within that place. It's like the tzaddik, like we talked about, remember, go to the club, he has to go to that place to retrieve the mitzvot and bring him out. But only a tzaddik gamor can do that, because it's tzaddik, just a tzaddik. What did it say? What did it say in the Gemara? It says, Rasha swallowed a tzaddik greater than him. Tzaddik, avalot tzaddik gamor, it says in the Gemara. Rasha boreh tzaddik mimenu. I think it's along that term. The Rasha swallows a tzaddik greater than he. Now, how is that possible? What does it say in the Gemara? A tzaddik, aval lo tzaddik gamur, but not a tzaddik gamur, a complete tzaddik. Because a complete tzaddik is not even afraid. So that's the only condition that allows him to go there. Even though the other tzaddik has it separated good from evil.
Yeah.
But it's not at the complete level where...
It's completely nullified.
Exactly. So now the tzaddik has gotten rid of the potential sin.
Yeah.
Which means when he goes there, he's doing a complete territory that he took, but it's a life or death situation, regardless.
Yeah.
And the tzaddik has to do it intentionally to go there. Now, what are we talking about in this scenario? When a person sighs in lesson 8. Rabbeinu explained, when a person sighs, you are essentially drawing your ruach from the tzaddik. Specifically, when you sigh over the fact that you want to be holy. You want to accomplish something good. You want to be a tzaddik, right? For example, I sigh over the fact that I woke up late because I missed minyan, God forbid. That sigh is holy because now you're drawing your ruach from the tzaddik to actually help you accomplish the thing which you are lacking over. Because what's a sigh, essentially? A sigh is something that you are missing.
Yeah.
You are missing something when you sigh. Oy, right? We say oy. The oy means that I am lacking something in a certain place. That's why we sigh. And what is a sigh? You're essentially taking in spirit, double spirit. Oy, I took in an extended breath to let out something. That extended breath is what we call the ruach of the tzaddik. Me'arba kanfot bo yaruach. From the four spirits comes the ruach. Which ruach is tzaddik? Which ruach are we talking about? The ruach of the tzaddik. Ish asher ruach Elokim, but we say the tzaddik that he's the man with the spirit of God within him. So where does all the ruach come from? The tzaddik, the Rav of the generation. So when a person sighs in holiness, where is he receiving his ruach from? The Rav of the generation. But what happens if a person sighs, God forbid, because he wants to commit a sin? For example, a person wanted to go out, do something bad, and he sighs, God forbid, over the fact that he could not do it.
He's giving energy to the other side.
Where is he getting his energy from? From that place. But which Rav?
The Rav that's not the Gemara?
Exactly. Or the Rav that is completely tameh. Yeah. The evil Rav. Who is that? The Rav of Esav. As Esav said, Yeshli Rav. Okay. Now Rabbeinu translates that completely differently. Esav was saying, I have a law, but Rabbeinu was saying, no, Esav saying, I have a Rav. What? I received my ruach from the Rav of the Kippah, which is a Rav who wears the talit, the red talit, which is a Rav who essentially takes his koach from the ruach se'ara, the storm wind. The storm wind, all these things, the storm wind, in terms of a hurricane, has strength in its moment, but after that it goes away. Yeah. So the Rasha, he has strength. When the Rasha, God forbid, sighs to accomplish something that is tameh, he is receiving a ruach that actually fights the ruach of the Kedusha, and not only that, it can swallow tzaddik bigger than him. So when the ruach of the evil side is feeding the Rasha, to help him in his channel to accomplish what he wants to do, God forbid, because when you are sighing, actually, you are completing the lack. The tzaddik is filling the ruach so you complete what you want to do. But that's also true in Tumah. So when an evil person, God forbid, sighs to accomplish something evil and he really wants to do it, there is nothing worse than that, because he can even swallow someone who wants to do something kadosh. But the tzaddik has to fight that ruach se'ara. And where does he go? He goes into the channel of the Rasha, the tzinor of the Rasha. And Rabbeinu says, only this tzaddik gamur can provoke this Rasha. You know who also can? Hanilvim elav. The tzaddik gamur and those who are nilveh elav, those who are accompanying the tzaddik, his tamidim.
So they can only go with him now.
Because with his force.
Okay.
They're always attached to him.
Yeah.
And because they're attached to him, they have the ability to retrieve that, even though it would take it would take like a Rabbi Natan to do such a thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel
You know?
Yeah.
It would take a Rabbi Natan to do such a thing. I don't know who's capable, like Rabbi Yisrael Dovodesa. Yeah. Rabbi Yisrael Dovodesa was like one of the first people to go to Tel Aviv to do Afatzah, and it's like, it was a big thing. Even the big tzaddikim in Mea Shearim at the time, the big Breslauer Hasidim, like Rabbi Shmuel Shapira, and all these great tzaddikim, Rabbi Shmuel Horowitz, and all these big Breslauer Hasidim didn't dare to go there. Rabbi Yisrael was like the first to go there and to start doing the Hafatzah and Tel Aviv, these places that weren't necessarily, you know what I mean, outright Jewish and promoting all that mentality. So it requires a certain tzaddik to go provoke the Rasha, and that's what we're talking about here, that the evil that is attached to the Rasha will have an effect on this man. And of course, the tzaddik needs to be careful of this, especially a person who engages in just drawing people close to Avodat Hashem, that you need to protect yourself from that fire. Now, Rabbeinu actually gives us multiple ways in other lessons to protect yourself. Here he's going to take a totally different route. Now, Rabbeinu and the Sipur Masiot protected the Sipur Masiot so that they don't have, so foreigners cannot take it and do it against their will, God forbid, and take the words that he's saying and Chaz v'Shalom make a soup out of it that isn't good, you know?
Yeah.
The Rabbeinu gives us advice for a person, just for us at a general level. You speaking to someone, or you were engaged in trying to draw someone close, Rabbeinu says it's very important to judge yourself. The fire mishpat, when you judge yourself properly over the evil that you do, and you make sure you do cheshbon and nefesh every single day, that means in your ibadah that you are constantly judging yourself over the fact that you're doing things wrong and that you can be better in certain places, and you make sure to judge yourself over the things that you're not holding at.
Yeah.
That protects you. That creates a manach of fire that protects the fire of the people trying to grab onto you from those people.
What doesn't Rabbi Nachman say, like, if you're judging yourself down here, then there's not going to be judgment.
Exactly.
That's Rabbi Nachman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So exactly. So now we see here a person who throws, or a person who teaches a talmid who is not hagun, falls into Gehinnom. It's as if he throws a stone into the Malkuris. So we see the Rav, when he teaches a talmid that is not hagun, it's as if he's doing avodah zarah. And what is this avodah zarah? It's the evil that is attaching himself to him.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's see what he's saying here. V'chen asru chachamim. The Chachamim also forbade in Gemara Shabbat lichtov al or b'matmea, to write tefillin on a cloth, on a parchment that is from an impure animal. So why is that the case? Shneimar, as it says in Shemot, leman tiyeh Torah Hashem beficha, so that the Torah of Hashem shall be beficha, in your mouth. Min hamutar leficha. How do the Chachamim explain beficha? Min hamutar leficha, meaning that which is permitted for you to eat, to put you. So that which is permitted for you to consume, then you can write on that animal. Okay? But what happens when a person studies with someone who's not proper? This is what we call writing. So now Rabbeinu is explaining this language of tefillin, and why the Chachamim say in the Gemara Shabbat that you can write tefillin on an animal only that is tahor, on the parchment of an animal that is pure, to a Jew to eat, for a Jew to eat. And he's explaining this idea of writing on the parchment, the tzaddik, he's comparing this, the writing on the parchment, to the tzaddik teaching a student. Why is that so? Because teaching someone is writing. Why do we know this? Because the language of the Rav, that when he's teaching, the words that the Rav is using when he's teaching, is what we call in the Pasuk in Tehillim, Leshoni, my tongue, et sofer mahir, is like a pen in a quick scribe. It's like the pen in the hand of a quick scribe. What does that mean? Meaning my tongue is like,
it's like.
Leshoni, my tongue, et sofer mahir, is the pen of a quick scribe. Meaning what?
Yeah.
My tongue is compared to the writing of the scribe. Pshat, right? That is now being engraved and written, meaning the Torah that the tzaddik is teaching, or this teacher is teaching, is now being written on the klaf, which is what? The heart of the student. Mm-hmm. So what's the klaf compared to? The heart of the talmid receiving the Torah, which is what? The pen, which is the tongue of the tzaddik. Write it on the luach, the tablets of your heart.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
So now what do we see here? That the lev of the talmid now is actually compared to the klaf, which a person writes tefillin, or Sefer Torah, mezuzah. And this is what it says. This is why the Rav needs. This is why the Rav needs to make sure that he's not writing his tefillin or the Torah that he's writing on the skin of an impure animal, because it's in the Gemara Shabbat. You need to write, or leman tiyeh Torah Hashem beficha min hamutar leficha. You need to make sure to write the Torah of Hashem to that which is permitted for your mouth to consume. Which means what? What are we talking about? A proper talmid. Make sure to write it on the heart of a talmid who doesn't fall into the category of an impure animal, but rather a pure animal. That your words should not be written on the obe matamea, meaning on the heart of the talmid the talmid who is not proper. So now, what do we see? We talked about earlier in Rabbi Natan Zikutei Halachot. Because even though Rabbi Natan said in Hilchot Tefillin, because he's explaining this concept that Rabbeinu mentions in the proper place, because here Rabbeinu is speaking about Tefillin, and Rabbi Natan in Hilchot Tefillin is now explaining what the idea of his Talmid she'eino hagun is. And we mentioned earlier last time, אפילו שאין אסורות באכילה, ולכן אף שבשעה שהרב בא לעורר מהשנה רוחנית את תלמידו, התלמיד אינו איש כשר. Now when this Rav is coming to wake the Talmid up from his sleep, the Talmid is not an ish kasher. He's not an upright individual because he's sleeping. So in that moment, he didn't fall into the category of ish kasher. So what happened? What is he referencing? Nonetheless, this person came to the tzaddik in order to be awakened. Which means what? He's showing a good motive, good intention.
Yeah.
And therefore he's considered the skin of nevelot and terefot. Nevela, a corpse, for example, you find a kosher animal, but you found it dead. Like, you don't know of it, right? You can still write on it. Which means what? You can still write. It's still not considered a Talmid she'eino hagun because it's mutar leficha. It's permitted to your mouth.
Yeah. So you're saying even if that student's quote unquote not living, you can still write on him. Exactly. It doesn't mean he's not. So you really have to be a real Rasha to be what they're describing, I feel.
A person who has no opening in the heart, I guess. A person who's coming to pick apart Chadve Shalom and an argument with the tzaddik.
It's like heretic. I feel like it's just like a pure heretic.
I feel like it's even less than that sometimes.
Really?
There are some people, someone who's totally not Nishem Shalayim who comes here and I don't know, someone who doesn't come to them, someone who doesn't come to be awakened, has ulterior motives.
Yeah.
There are people like that, you know what I mean? Now, I don't know who this, that, who knows what's going on in the person's heart, but there are people that come to study, let's say, words of Chassidut or words of Rabbi Nachman's Torah that come to try to pick apart language with it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there are cases and scenarios, and I'm sure they're more common than we think, you know?
Yeah.
But it's something we have to be careful for. So what did he say? The Talmid that is not proper, that it's forbidden to teach him, he's a min tameh, he's a completely impure animal. Now the case of a nevela or terefa is that the shchita, you might not know the shchita to the animal, or you found the corpse, you found the animal's corpse just lying on the ground in a desert or something. But the animal itself is kosher, it was a cow, or it was a lamb or something like that.
Yeah.
But this is, you know what I mean? It's still, the animal itself is still kosher. It's just in that scenario, no.
Yeah.
That's what talking about someone who's not kasher necessarily, but it's allowed to be written on him. Meaning that the tzaddik can teach him. He's not considered Talmid she'eino hagun. Even though he's not kasher, he's still considered a student that is fitting to be taught. But in the case of Talmid not hagun, he's considered a completely impure animal. That the tzaddik, sheba the tzaddik im chokhmot v'chakirot, he comes to the tzaddik with his own sophistications. With own analysis. Ulterior motives, exactly. To question the tzaddik. Nasoto, to test the tzaddik. And he has a grievance in his heart. He has a claim in his heart. He has something wrong.
Yeah.
It's not.
Maybe the tzaddik can pick that up.
He, of course, he knows exactly.
Yeah.
He has thoughts of kfira, like what you mentioned earlier, of atheism. Heretical thoughts and foreign wisdoms. So this is what we're talking about here. Okay, so let me see. I wanted to see something to mention. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
We can continue.
We ended off
Achi Yesha.
אך אי אפשר לבשר ודם להיות נשמר בעצמו, שלא ישמעו תלמידים שאינם הגונים ממנו. ולזה צריך שיהיה לימודו, ללמוד, ללמד ולשמור, לעשות, היינו שעל ידי לימודו, אם תלמידו יהיה כאילו עשאו חברו וכאילו עשאו דברי תורה. כמו שאמרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, כל המלמד בין חברו תורה כאילו עשאו וכו', כאילו עשאו לדברי תורה וכו'.
One more line.
ושלמו בכוונה זו, אזי השם יתברך שומר אותו, שלא יהיו דבריו נכתבים בכוח הזיכרון של התלמיד שאינו הגון, רק יהיו נשכחים ממנו.
Wow, okay. So now we're talking about how can a person, a tzaddik, how can the Rav save himself from Talmidim who are not proper? Because anyone's going to come open up the book.
Yeah.
But it's impossible for flesh and blood, for man, who doesn't know the secrets of a person's heart. Even though there is a tzaddik who might know that, it's also very difficult to make sure that every person that comes to this thing is, it's entire avodah. So, what's going on here? And also with the sefer as well. It's forbidden for Basar Adam to be careful on himself, like to guard himself from such a thing. That students who are not proper should listen to him. It's almost impossible. What are we talking about here? To make sure, for the Rav to protect himself from this, he needs to make sure that his study is lilmod ulelamed, meaning it's to study for the sake itself of studying Torah, for the mitzvah itself. Lamed, to teach others, velishmor, to guard, meaning to lishmor velasot, and to guard and to lasot, to do the mitzvah, meaning to fulfill the mitzvah of the Torah that you're doing, not just to make it a chokhmah, but to actually apply it. So now what does it mean? Now Rabban is going to say. Now Rabban is going to put on the word vela'asot. Meaning that through his limud with his talmid, not through his teaching the talmid, through his studying with the talmid, the student, it's as if he made his friend. Lishmor vela'asot, to guard and la'asot, to do. What does it mean la'asot? Lishmor vela'asot. When we say every single morning, Lishmor vela'asot, la'asot. A person who teaches someone else, it's as if he made him. It's as if he gave birth to him. It's as if it's his own son. Almost.
If he teaches him.
Yeah. It's as if you made your friend. You brought him into creation.
Wow. That's
what it says. It's as if you made him les divrei Torah, for the words of Torah. So now we're going to explain what all of this means. The Chachamim say in the Gemara Sanhedrin, anyone who teaches the son of his friend Torah,
he teaches his son?
The son of his friend.
The son of his friend.
Okay. It could be
anyone, you're saying.
Could be anyone.
Okay.
It's as if he made him. It says, with regard to Avraham Avinu, the souls that they made in Haran. What do we see from Avraham and Sarah? Which souls are they referencing over there? The souls that they made converts. The people who drew close to Hashem. All those people. It's as if they made them. The souls that they made in Haran. What souls are we talking about? Those souls that they brought back to Hashem. And it's considered as if Sarah and Abraham gave birth to them.
Wow.
Meaning that there are souls that belong to them. It's as if he created those for those words of Torah. What does that mean? It's as if he made him for the words of Torah. I'm trying to explain what the implication of that means. So we'll wrap back on that.
Yeah.
As it says over there, what did it say? You shall guard the words of this covenant, and you shall do them, right? Now, just like a person teaches others, and through that the words of the Torah are guarded over and remembered now because this other person is going to fulfill it too. It's as if he's making the words of the Torah, because now the other person is fulfilling it too, which means what? He's bringing life to those words. Someone else now is doing it as well. It's as if he made those words of Torah. Meaning what? And now the other person is going to fulfill those words too. He created an entirely new Torah for someone. So, now when the Rav learns with his Talmid, teaches his Talmid with this kavanah, lishmor ve'la'asot u'l'kayen, or lelamed, lishmor ve'la'asot, Azai Hashem Yitbarach shomer oto, then Hashem Yitbarach guards him. Hashem himself takes it upon himself to guard the tzaddik or the Rav. That the words of the Rav should not be written with the strength of memory, which is what we call luchot alev, the tablets of the heart. It should not be written that the Talmid who is not Hagun should remember the words that are being said. That it should be forgotten from his heart.
So Hashem, you're saying,
make sure
he's
that
protecting the tzaddik when he teaches. That's protection is part of making sure that it doesn't get to that student.
or making sure that even if the student hears it, that he forgets it.
That he forgets it.
It never enters his heart.
Got it.
So, what do we see here? By the way, it says in the Gemara that if the first luchot were not broken, we would never have forgotten the Torah Shabbat Peh. That's what's in the Gemara. Now, what do we see here? What are the luchot compared to the heart? Luach libecha, the tablets of the heart. Which means what? If they're not written on tablets of the heart, or if they're broken, then they're forgotten. Because we're seeing that the first luchot were broken, and because of that, we forgot the Torah Shabbat Peh. We would never have to review our Torah if the first luchot weren't broken, meaning we would remember immediately. So what are we saying here? That the luchot, or the heart of a talmid who's not hagun, is broken to begin with. Therefore, it forgets.
Wow.
So
it
can retain the Torah that is being taught from the Rav. So now let's see what it says here. Because there's many inyanim here. The Papa it's possible that he wants to explain that by the fact that this Rav is learning or teaching the student in this fashion, even at the time when he begins to teach, the talmid is not hagun, that we talked about. The talmid is not proper. And behold, the Rav is coming to learn with this kavanah, lishmor, lilmod, lilamed, lishmor, vela'asot. He's doing all of that with that kavanah in order to create a new man, literally a new person, completely. Now the talmid now will be completely brand new. It's a complete renewal. And this is what we call it's as if he made his friend. Why? That right now, the moment the tzaddik is studying with the talmid, he's completely making him a talmid hagun, a brand new creature. So he's forgotten his old state of being a talmid who's not hagun. He's completely making him brand new, which is why it's as if he made him. Because before he wasn't hagun, now he's becoming completely hagun just by the fact that he's in the room with the Rav is teaching him.
So just by him teaching him, he says you take it away, like the hagun, and then he's a...
You take away the fact that he's not proper and becomes completely brand new, which means he's starting again.
Even if he's coming in to the lesson saying, I want to pick apart everything these guys say.
The issue with that is that the word will never enter his heart to change it.
But then, but then if he is coming in
with a proper
some
kavanah,
openness, then he's not hagun.
He's not hagun, you're right, but that's what it's saying. It's as if he remade him, meaning because he wasn't hagun, and after the fact that the Rav teaches him, he becomes hagun.
Okay, got it. Wow.
Because it's as if he made him brand new again. It's a complete renewal. Whereas the person who is not hagun coming before the Rav, or a person, God forbid, who falls in the category of not a proper student, a person who comes to analyze and pick apart everything that Rav is saying with his own wisdom, sophistication, heresy, God forbid, the words will never enter his heart to make him brand new.
Okay, I see.
He can never be remade new.
Yeah.
And even, God forbid, and if, God forbid, this talmid now, after the studying with the Rav, does not want to renew himself for the better. Let's say that's the case. We can see here that the Rav did not accomplish the purpose of the kavanah why he studied. Because the entire point of the kavanah why he studied was la'asot. And what's la'asot? Ki'ilu asa ala chavero, to make him brand new. Yeah. It's as if he made his friend. And if the talmid is not wanting to change for the better after that, then there's an issue. The Rav did not study lilamed, lilmod, lishmor, vela'asot. The kavanah wasn't at the highest level.
Wow.
So the Rav knows by the fact that after the talmid did not wanting to change, that there was a blemish in his kavanah.
That's such an amazing idea of like you don't see that it's like that's just tzaddik. It's like it's not the student, it's me. I need to do not that tzaddik needs to do better in anything, but it's just like it's
the tzaddik sees it as
that's
something
what they see
himself.
there, it's their whole duty, and I feel like the whole thing is to bring people back. So they're like, okay, if it's not bad, I gotta go even harder. I gotta do better. You know? It's so nice.
That's awesome.
I love that.
It's an amazing thing that you're saying. אז אף על פי כן לא יהיה הלימוד בבחינת הלומד תורה לתלמיד שאינו הגון, רק יהיה נחשב כאילו לא למד עמו כלל שום דברי תורה. What's he saying here? However, nonetheless, this limud will not be in the aspect of halomed Torah לתלמיד שאינו הגון. As that we talked about earlier. In this case, in this scenario, we're not talking about a person who comes with his own ulterior motives, God forbid, this, that. We're talking about a person who came right opening. But at the end, there's no change in the individual to want to renew.
Yeah.
So what's Rabbeinu saying? Or what's the Papa Chochma saying? That in this case, it's not considered as if the Rav studied with someone who's not Hagun. It's just saying that the Rav, what's he saying? It's as if, it's considered as if, it's as if he didn't learn with him anything at all. It nullifies itself. Because it wasn't the entire point of that the Rav was teaching the student for the kavanah to make him, to renew him. It says, it's as if you made your friend. Anyone who teaches the son of his friend Torah, it's as if you made him. So the kavanah of the Rav was ki'ilu asa'o, right? That was part of the kavanah of the Rav. But because that wasn't accomplished, what's he saying? He did not accomplish this kavanah by the fact that the student did not want to renew himself for the change, for the better. So what happened? As gamken ki'ilu lo asa'o ledivrei Torah. It's also as if he did not make him for the words of Torah, meaning that the words of Torah were not being fulfilled by this other student because he's not taking it upon himself. So it's as if he did not learn words of Torah with him at all. What's he saying here? Why is that possible? Because Hashem Yitbarach is guarding him. That his word, the words of his Torah, should not be written in the koach hazikaron of the Talmid who's not Hagun. So here he's saying in the case where the student does not want to change, and in that case he wouldn't be a Talmid Hagun. He would be a Talmid she'enu Hagun because he's not being changed by the tzaddik. So I was mistaken earlier. Okay. Meaning, either the person's coming out to change, which in that case means that the tzaddik was able to affect his kavanah. Yeah. And if the tzaddik was not able to affect his kavanah with the person in the room, that he sees the man in the room comes out the same and not doing anything, then in that case he was a Talmid she'enu Hagun to begin with. Yeah. Which means what? That the Rav already infused, Hashem already protected the Rav and infused the Rav with his words that they should be forgotten from the heart of the student. Meaning that it didn't change him at all. It just left. But it wasn't written in the heart. It's not like he's not using it. Yeah. No, it's not. It was completely forgotten. It's as if he didn't learn with him at all. Okay. So that's how the Papa Chochma explains the structure of what's really happening and how the Hashem protects him and how the tzaddik is creating the student. But in the case where the Talmid is not Hagun, he's not creating anything at all. He's not studying with him. It's as if he's considered. It's like he wasn't even in the room. Yeah. Okay. So. Now, something that brings from the Marasha, but I'm going to skip. The Biur Alikutim explains. We talked about the idea of the breaking of the luchot. Because the koach hazikaron, the strength of memory, when the Rav teaches the student, he's writing with the koach hazikaron for the Talmid who's Hagun, and the one who's not Hagun forgets it, right? So this is the idea of the breaking of the luchot. Shaya mechamat erev Rav, it was because of the erev Rav, the entire story, the breaking of the luchot, because they're the ones who did the sin of the golden calf. They are considered the talmidim who are not hagunim. They are considered the improper students of Moshe Rabbeinu, the mixed multitude.
And the erev Rav still exists.
Yeah. So there's always. In the end, the Mashiach is going to fix them completely. Be metak in them. But they still exist, of course. And it's brought down in the Gemara Eruvin. Because the first luchot were broken, the Torah would be forgotten from Israel, like we talked about. Meaning, when a person studies with the Talmidim who are not Hagunim, what's happening from them? They're forgetting the Torah. Because Hashem protects the tzaddik that the word should not be engraved in the hearts of these talmidim who are not proper, which means what? It's as if their hearts are broken, meaning the luchot are broken.
So
there's no kli for them to hold the words of Torah. Their klaf is completely tameh. So it's like a person who writes Chaz Shalom, a sofer, writes Chaz Shalom on klaf, the most beautiful ktiva, the most beautiful writing, the most beautiful kavanot on the klaf. It's tameh. It's not. It had no klusha tefillin. Even a sofer Chaz Shalom was a heretic. Writes the most beautiful writing. This, that. You could throw this tefillin in the trash. Has no kedusha. Literally zero kedusha.
Yeah.
Sefer Torah has zero kedusha. Because everything is dependent on the sofer. But also the kli of the thing. So the kli might be kadosh, but the sofer is a zero, then what is it? Everything is drawn from the kedusha of the sofer. And that's obviously the language of the tzaddik. The word of the tzaddik were being drawn. And if it's being written Chaz Shalom on a klaf that is tameh, then there's no effect.
Yeah.
They need to have both. They need to have the tzaddik who's putting the words with the memory. And if the klaf is tameh, then the tzaddik doesn't include any memory on it. There's no words. The words itself don't have the koach to change the heart, because the heart itself is broken. It's a broken luchot.
So you're saying then, if it's not being taught, then he's not going to have the klipo attack him?
Exactly, because he's not studying with someone who's not hagun.
Yeah.
It's just he's not studying with anyone
Not
at all.
anyone at all.
Exactly. So what is the papa of Chochmah saying? To explain a little bit more. What did he say? The Chachamim teach us this. It's as if he taught him, he created him for the words of Torah. מפסוק, אז אצל ושמעתם את דברי הברית הזאת ועשיתם אותם, נמצא שפרשו ושמעתם, what did it say in דברים, in ספר דברים? ושמעתם, you shall guard them, את דברי הברית הזאת, the words of this covenant. ועשיתם אותם, and you shall do them, talking about the Torah. What do we see here? שפרשו ושמעתם, that they explain the word ושמעתם, שילמד דברי תורה לחברו. As ושמעתם, you shall guard them, being, how do they interpret, the Gemara interpret, or the Chachamim interpret the word ושמעתם? To teach someone else, to teach your friend. Because this is what we call guarding the word of Torah. Because if you're only learning for yourself, God forbid, it could be as if it's forgotten. When you study with your friend, they are also being guarded by his friend who remembers these words of Torah. So he's protected from his friend because his friend also remembers them. But if it's just you, God forbid, and it's only for you, then you, God forbid, can forget it. But your friend also is fulfilling them, which means that you also have a zechut in that thing as well. That this too is also what we call a guardian for the words of Torah, to protect yourself. And to guard the words of Torah, because they're being guarded by someone else now. To make sure that the words of Torah are not only responsible by you, but now if God forbid you fall, someone else is also guarding it too. Which means that you're also having a zechut in that because you're the one who taught him. Wow. So now instead of one person guarding a very precious jewel, like someone has a really nice safe and all this stuff, it's like adding an extra security system to make sure that the safe isn't broken into, or adding an extra lock on it. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. Because now through them, now you create a new chadash, a new birth, a new man, through the fact that you taught someone else. And the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, a person who teaches his son's friend Torah, the son, his friend's son Torah, it's as if he gave birth to him. What is not true with a talmid who is not agun. Why? As not only are the words of Torah not guarded by the talmid who is not agun, because the words aren't being written, he's not fulfilling anything. On the contrary, the words that he studied with him are considered a blemish in the words of Torah. It's as if he wrote them on the parchment of an impure animal. It can also damage the Rav himself, as we explained over there. But because the kavanah of the Rav is good, ללמד, ללמוד, לשמור ולעשות. Those 4 things. והמניע הוא רק מצד התלמיד, and the obstacle is only on the side of the Talmid who's coming to listen, but the Rav himself is completely kadosh. By default, when the Rav himself is completely kadosh, he doesn't need to worry about who's coming in outside the room. אז הקדוש ברוך הוא שומע אותו, Hashem self-protects him. שלא יהיו דבריו נכתבים בכוח הזיכרון של התלמיד. That the word should not be remembered by the lev of this Talmid. That the words shouldn't be written in the strength of being remembered by this Talmid. Like you nishkachim mimenu, they should be forgotten from him. And this is what it says. No. No, I think we're good. That's what we mentioned. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where do you be?
Uchsheosek?
Is this on the... Oh, Uchsheosek will rare. Alides Sipurei Masiot. Sarich Shia Sikato Siparav Vagam came to Hinan Halimudana. Tayinu Lemor Lasotna. Zebetna Shekitan Shel Talmidei Chachamim Tzrikin Limud. Tayinu Shekol Mashu Tzrikin El Halimud. Tzrikin Gam Kin El Sikato Shehu Bechinat Sipor Masiot Kana. וזה ועלה לתרופה. ועלינו זה בחינת שיחת תלמידים חכמים, כמו שאמרו רבותינו זיכרונם לברכה, עלינו לא יבוא, אפילו שיחת תלמיד חכם אחד.
וזה, we continue.
וזה לתרופה להתיר פה. היינו בחינת מין המותר לפיך, כי ששיחתו היא בחינת שיחות תלמידי חכמים צריכים לימוד. היינו ללמוד, ללמד ולשמור לעסוק נעל, אזי נשמר מן התלמידים שאינם הגונים, שזהו בחינה מן המותר לפיך כנ"ל, מניין שאין כותבים וכו' כנ"ל.
Okay. So now we're going to explain like this. Just like the tzaddik is coming to engage and to teach a student Torah, right? It needs to be in the aspect of lilmod, lelamed, lishmor, vela'asot. So too, when the tzaddik is engaging in sipur masiot, in order to wake people up from sleep, it also needs to have this kavanah. And then the koach of the sipur masiot will be able to, of course, like we mentioned, bring providence, special providence to barren women, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But that's all conditional on the tzaddik's kavanah, also within his conversation. Because what's sipur masiot?
It's just that
It's the conversation.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously the sipur masiot of ancient years. But in general, the conversations, the tzaddik, the chacham, because now we're going to be talking about a very special tzaddik. Already the first one's already a madriga. For a tzaddik to be at the madriga, to do this completely b'kavanah, to make sure that the words are being forgotten by the talmid who's not agun, right?
Yeah.
And then to do that while you're speaking mundane conversation.
Sorry. Yeah.
That is even higher madriga. Right,
I think his Torah is like...
Torah is obvious.
It's obvious, yeah.
But now you have to infuse the kavanah of your mundane conversation with this l'shem shamayim ability.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like how do you even have... I feel like it's even for the students, like how do you even affect the student? How does the student even know that he's being affected in a mundane conversation?
It's harder technically,
You know?
but also it technically could be easier. For the tzaddik, maybe it's harder.
Mm-hmm.
For the talmid, it's easier because it's more close to him. Because the fact that the talmid needs to be fixed and woken up, it's because he's already in the mundane.
Yeah.
So by the fact that he's hearing the mundane conversation, but in a form of kedusha,
I see.
it's affecting him more. That's why we're talking about tzibor masiot and that the
Yeah,
Torah sometimes that can't wake a person up.
Okay.
So for the talmid, it's actually technically
It's better.
it's better for the talmid. There's a reason why the tzaddik is actually speaking with the talmid sichat chunin, mundane conversation, or sipur masiot, story tales, for that specific reason, because he needs to be woken up and the Torah is not affecting him. Like the way Rabbeinu said when he started the stories, I see that my Torah is not affecting you guys the way I need it to. So now let's begin telling stories. The same exact thing, Jan. So now let's see what it is. So now when a person engages to wake someone up from their sleep through sipur masiot, through these stories, so actually he needs to make sure that this chacham I met, this true chacham, this tzaddik I met, this true tzaddik, needs to make sure that his conversations and his stories, and that is also in the concept, the category of the limud that we just mentioned above. Which is what? To teach, to do. To make sure that you make the student, right? That through the Sipurei Maasiyot, it's as if you made your student, you created him brand new, like we talked about above. This is what the Chachamim said. In the Gemara, Avodah Zarah, page 19b. The conversations of the Talmidei Chachamim require limud, require study. Now, Talmidei Chachamim, achi, when you're talking about Talmidei Chachamim, it's not what we call Talmidei Chachamim today.
It's talking about, like Rabbi Akiva's students.
Yeah, we're talking about real Talmidei Chachamim. I don't even know. There's arguments of whether there's even Talmidei Chachamim today or not. That's the question. Yeah. Already, I think there's an argument. When we talk about yichud, there's a halakha shulchan aruch that a man, according to Sfaradim, a man can't be along with 2 women or 3 women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Only when there's 3 men in the room can it be technically along with another 3 women or whatever it is. But there's an argument in the case whether there's 2 men and if they're proper, they're kasher, they're upright people. So there's an argument whether there's an argument between some poskim whether being kasher exists today or not. And some say yes, some say no. Just being kosher.
Wow.
Now we're talking about Talmidei Chachamim, which is a madrega like this.
Yeah.
So Talmid Chacham, when we say Talmid Chacham, we're talking about someone who by default is already kasher.
Yeah.
So Talmid Chacham, the Talmid Chachamim, their conversation need iyun. We see people who study Torah all day, but they're not Talmidei Chachamim, and their conversations don't have any depth to it.
No, yeah. You're saying it's not just like just learning all day.
No, it's a level
so
of.
much more.
It's way.
It's living it. It's like.
It's live. It's
living.
they have the bina within the Torah. They have the dat within the Torah.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's all this sort of stuff. So who falls in this category today? That's for a person to pray, to ask Hashem, who this that.
Yeah.
But regardless, the mundane conversations of the Talmid Chacham need iyun. That's like the Ben Ish Chai, you know what I mean? The Ben Ish Chai would have a mundane conversation with someone like he's hiding thing. When the Ari HaKadosh would speak with someone about something random, just know that it's more precious than the Divrei Torah of one of the biggest tzaddikim today, alive today. Rabbeinu says that the Sichat Chulin, sometimes Rabbeinu says that Divrei Torah is precious, right? Now it's even more precious when a person has dat, when they study the Torah with dat, right? And their words have real consciousness within them. Meaning they understand what they're saying and when they're saying it, etc., etc., etc. But now, what happens if a tzaddik, there's a tzaddik, the Rabbanu says there's a tzaddik who gives divrei Torah? That's precious. But there's a tzaddik who's so big that his mundane conversation is more precious than that big tzaddik's divrei Torah. The mundane conversation of a very big tzaddik is bigger than the divrei Torah of another tzaddik. So imagine when Rabbeinu is saying Sipurei Maasiyot, how precious those words are just in the mundane conversation, because they had more Torah than this tzaddik could spend 100 years doing in his divrei Torah.
Yeah.
And not only that, it's affecting more. And by the fact that it's affecting more, that's even more Torah.
Yeah.
Because it's affecting the student who's further more than the divrei Torah of someone else. So it has not only an effect on the individual listening, but the words itself have more kavanah and Torah within the words, and the divrei Torah, even if you were to speak the words of the Torah, Sefer Torah, Bereshit, and just repeat over those words, the words of the tzaddik have more Torah in them, because they're infused with more da'at and they have tremendous kavanah. So, Rabbeinu brings down this Gemara, the sichot of the Talmidei Chachamim need limud, which is why Rabbeinu said, every single word I say, remember, make sure to pay attention, because you will never hear it again. Because every single word Rabbeinu said had a mamash kavanah, precise time and a moment for it to be said. To the point where Rabbeinu said, every breath that I breathe has chidush, has novelty. That meaning that I don't breathe in a random breath. There's no randomness with the tzaddik. There isn't randomness. There's not a moment that he's alive, literally, not a single moment that he's, which is crazy to think about. Because you're talking about someone who's literally a robot in Avodat Hashem. But it's nothing like that at all. It's someone who's every single movement he does with his hand, literally every single movement he does with his hand has a special kavanah.
Yeah.
Which means the mundane conversation just know for a fact that there's gems of Torah within there.
Yeah.
Rabbeinu said, "Afilu mi shenogea bi be'ezra ketana, en l'sha'er ma'alato." It's in the Chaim Orah. Even one who touches me with a small finger, you cannot explain his greatness. Rabbeinu said that tzaddikim in the generation will be jealous of those people of my talmidim. Even the one who extended the fire to my pipe. So, all these things, what's happening? You know what I mean? Rabbeinu was saying, the one who touches me with a small finger, or the person who lights fire to my pipe, that he can, the tzaddik in the generation will be jealous of him. Rabbeinu was saying, yes. Because the tzaddik ha'emet is so high, with the smallest thing that the talmid does for this tzaddik, the tzaddik is creating worlds in shamayim for this person just because he did this small thing, with this small act. And that comes to show you the greatness of attaching yourself to tzaddikim. Because the truth is, at the end of the day, we are in a phase in a generation right now where it doesn't matter necessarily how strong we are. But now it matters how much you nullify yourself to someone bigger than you.
Yeah.
And when you do that, they will bring you here. They will do things for you that you don't even realize. You will go to Shemaim and you will realize what it meant when you picked up a Likutei Moharan and you read a word. To the point where Rabbi Natan says, when the Minagdim came to Rabbi Natan and they told him, what happens if you go to Gehinam? You know how Rabbi Natan responded? He said, I'm going to open up a Likutei Moharan in Gehinam. I'm going to start reading and all the tzaddikim are going to come down to listen. And it will turn into Ganeden. Because we don't understand these words. We read these words, we're like, okay, tov, like, we bring the Gemara. But why is Rabbeinu skipping half of the Gemara when he brings the Gemara?
Yeah.
Like, look, at the end, you mentioned over here, right? He didn't even finish the phrase in the Gemara. You better go out and finish it. No, Rabbeinu purposely did not do that.
Yeah.
And there's an intentional reason as to why. Even in Likutei Arachot, when you pick up Likutei Arachot and you see when Rabbi Natan writes vechule, why it doesn't finish the certain Gemara, all of that is a reason that we do not understand. It's written with Ruach HaKodesh.
Yeah.
When Chafetz Chaim finished Mishnah Berurah, they came to him and they asked him, when he wrote a book, like what the kavanah was, he said it was totally Beruach HaKodesh when I wrote the book. Now I'm not. When I was writing Mishnah Berurah, I was totally Beruach HaKodesh. Meaning, in the moment when the tzaddik is writing a sefer, there is a special ruach of Hashem siyata dishmaya that makes sure that everything is precise the way it is. Whereas when he stops writing, that siyata almost like, it's a different siyata dishmaya, but it's no longer there, the same siyata dishmaya that he is when he's writing, because Hashem knows he's going to write for everyone.
Wow.
So he infuses so many things within the ruach HaKodesh, especially within a tzaddik who has a huge kli of kedusha. The bigger the tzaddik, the more siyata dishmaya and emet is infused within the word. So that every single word in Likutei Moharan, you can be certain and sure that you are picking up the words of the living God. That there's not a single wrong letter misplaced here. Unless they misprinted it. Which is why Rabbeinu says about Sipurei Masiot. He literally said this about Sipurei Masiot. Do not take away one letter of the story. Rabbeinu told us in Yiddish. Which means if you're saying this, that, just the ayin of the don't take away. Because he says you take away a lot from the story. Who can say something that when it's literally, if you're saying the person and it's a minor word. No, Rabbeinu was saying it's not a minor word. Just like every single word of the Torah, the Tanakh is perfect, you cannot take away a single word. It takes away the Kedusha Sefer Torah is within every single space. Yeah. You take away the word, you take away one single letter, you cut off a letter, it is pasul. It has no Kedusha Sefer Torah.
Sipurei Masiot is in Yiddish?
Yeah, Rabbeinu told it in Yiddish, but then Rabbi Natan wrote it in Hebrew.
So what are you supposed to read in Yiddish or in Hebrew?
Rabbi Yisrael said if you can read it in Yiddish, all the more so. But
either way, I'm reading the English. I'm reading the English along with it.
I read it in Hebrew. I'm not that. You know?
Yeah, you gotta brush up on your ears.
Yeah. But there is an avodah technically within the language that the tzaddik said it in.
Yeah.
But now Rabbeinu told many of his Torah in Yiddish.
Yeah, I feel like this was probably all in Yiddish.
Then Rabbi Nachman sometimes wrote manuscripts in Hebrew. Rabbi Natan recopied them.
Yeah.
Rabbeinu changed certain things. Rabbeinu would tell the Torah in Yiddish. Rabbi Natan would come back, write everything. Rabbi Nachman would look at it, reread the entire Torah in Hebrew that Rabbi Natan wrote, and change things.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
He'd tweak.
Interesting.
Every single Torah in Likutei Moharan was
I
mamash.
never thought about it. Yeah, this was probably given in Yiddish.
Rabbeinu, when he used to give the Torah, now many things, paragraphs he'd say in Hebrew and this and that, but when he would give over the Torah, it would be in Yiddish.
Yeah, so interesting. Yeah.
But it's very unique why he does that. All this stuff is all very precise. All very precise.
Yeah.
And there's very big kavanot as to why he's doing certain things.
Yeah.
So we see here, when you attach yourself to a big tzaddik, and you rely on your big tzaddik, you only get back how much you put force in. Rabbeinu said, put big force on my shoulders for I can handle it. Rely on me, I can handle it.
Yeah.
The issue is we don't have enough emunat chachamim.
No.
And all the gam today is because we don't have enough emunat chachamim. And not only that, we put our emunah in the wrong chachamim. Or the fake chachamim, or this or that. Chachamim, they're not able to change us.
So true.
You know?
Yeah, 100%.
Akhi, we have been.
It's like the example that I think of. It's like we think like just like overall like Hashem loves us. Like I'm not saying like anything specific, but idea of Chazir, Hashem loves us. Sometimes we'll do something and then we won't even believe in that Hashem loves us.
You're right.
And then you know, and then you're thinking, oh no, then you like you really got to believe like
Exactly.
everything. Like
And the more you throw away what you think you know, the more you'll be able to believe what he says.
yeah.
Because we come with a package of the way we thought about God,
Yes.
the way we grew up.
For sure.
Which is why Rabbi Natan, when he came to Rabbeinu, start again with Mishnayot.
He came from Misnagdim, right?
Yeah, he came from that, but Rabbi Natan was studying with Rabbi Levi Tzadok Berditcher for years, with many other Hasidim.
Mm-hmm.
He was with Rabbi Zusha, he was with
Yeah.
Improper, I forget his first name. Improper, I forget who. But all these tzaddikim, Rabbi Natan was with many tzaddikim before he wrote parts of Kedushat Levi, Rabbi Natan.
Oh, really?
People don't even know that. Parts of Kedushat Levi is from Rabbi Natan. Just to show you, Rabbi Natan was already 20 years old at the time he was running Kedushat Levi.
Crazy.
If Rabbi Natan was not a Talmid of Rabbi Nachman, he would be considered as Baal Shem Tov. A Baal Shem Tov of his generation.
Yeah.
For sure. There's no question about it. But Rabbi Natan never stopped searching for someone to bring him close to Hashem. Even with Rabbi Levi Tzadok. It's not enough. It comes to show you how far they went for the Emet. So when Rabbi Natan came to Rabbeinu for the first time and saw what he saw, he threw away everything he knew to come close to Rabbeinu. He started learning Mishnayot again, what kids in Cheder do. And when his father saw him, they make my nasa to study Mishnayot. Who's this Rav who makes you study Mishnayot? He got upset at Rabbi Natan for going back to Rabbi Nachman. But that's what made Rabbi Natan special. He didn't care what anyone else thought of him.
He knew it was true.
One was Abraham. He didn't care about his father, his mother, his father-in-law, his wife, no one.
Yeah.
Anyone who gets in the way of me serving Hashem, it's fine. It's all a test for me to test how much do I want it. And he went, and that's why Rabbi Natan became Rabbi Natan, and that's why he's the mood to the sun. That's why Rabbi Natan, without Rabbi Natan, there's not a single page of Rabbi Nachman's books. Rabbi Nachman said, Lo ala daf echad misfarai. Not one single page would have come up from my books if not for Rabbi Natan. Everything we have is because of him. Everything. Because Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Nachman are one. They're one in Yan. Rabbi Natan was completely nullified, which means he's part of the tzaddik.
Yeah.
And the tzaddik he's part of you. It's all one klal. Which is why the main tikkun today is through the chaverim. It's through having good friends who are attached to the tzaddik, who reinforce each other within the ideas of Avodat Hashem. Because who today is capable of guiding you according to the root of your soul? I don't know if anyone's capable. Even the biggest tzaddik, you go to Yerushalayim, the biggest mikubah, this, that. Who's capable of really guiding you lefi shoresh nishmatcha? Which is why Rabbeinu says you need to come do vidu dvarim before the kever of the Talmid Chacham, the tzaddik ha'emet. He'll guide you lefi shoresh nishmatcha, or to apply the advice of the tzaddik, because the truth is that is not there anymore. It's, are you giving up, or are you going to continue fighting? That's what the tzaddik's Torah is. Continue moving. Apply the advice. Okay, you can't apply? Do your best to apply, even in peace. I mean, Natan says, even when a person is chalukat ha'etzah, when a person is divisive on his advice, he doesn't know where to go. I mean, Natan says, apply a little bit. Just because you can't do everything, doesn't mean you can't do a little bit of it. So you're right, we don't believe enough. Because if we did, then we would be doing.
Yeah.
Rabbeinu says, okay, yeah, we should do hitbodedut for an hour, this, that.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, Rabbeinu says, mitzvah gedolah yeh b'simchat amin. Just because, God forbid, a person falls asleep in hitbodedut, doesn't mean he should be now sad.
Yeah.
Okay, you could be broken-hearted over that, but be broken-hearted in your hitbodedut when you go do hitbodedut again. But you have to be b'simcha all day, regardless.
Yeah.
Like the Rabbi Yisrael Karduner said, even a bal avera mamash, even a person who's constantly committing sins, God forbid, when he's happy, Hashem takes lots of pride in him. Hashem takes tremendous pride in the bal avera who's sameach. The bal avera who's happy.
Oh.
Yipshitut, bro. Yipshitut, we have to apply these things, and we have to believe in it.
100%.
You know? That's what we're lacking. Where are we at?
Yeah, a few more minutes.
Okay. So let's finish up this translation, and then after we'll go into it another time. You know what Rabbi Nathan says about Rabbeinu? Amar Moranat Zal Bezel Hashon. Rabbi Nathan said in this language, Haikar Mashi Ikarti Rabbeinu Zal. The essence of how I came to recognize Rabbeinu, how I came to know Rabbeinu, came from his mundane conversations during the week. Not even his Torah. That's Rabbi Nathan saying that.
Wow. Isn't that what Chaim Moran is? Some of his mundane conversations or not?
Yeah.
A lot of his random. I only read a few pages.
A lot of his random
conversations. It just seems like they're just conversations.
A lot of his conversations are from there.
Yeah.
But
so he's taking more of like
the actual random convos that they had.
I wonder what they spoke about.
Yeah.
Like I'm seeing, because Rabbi Nathan definitely went to Rabbi Nathan, just like telling him about his problem.
Of course.
You know.
A lot of that said in Sichot Aran, Chaim Moran, Korvei Or has stories. There's plenty of things with regard to the conversations they had. Yeah, it's very unique stuff. It's very unique.
Just a day in that those walks.
For sure.
Crazy.
It's crazy stuff. We can't even.
Yeah.
We only have a drop of a drop, you know.
Yeah.
So many things. Even Rabbi Nathan's diary. Rabbi Nathan's diary is an amazing book to read. Yemei Moranat. Amazing book. You get a glimpse into his life and all the struggles and his life with Rabbeinu and all the small things that we wouldn't.
Oh yeah. Someone's read that to me, but like a little thing from it. But I've heard it's like very real.
It's very amazing. It's a real book.
Talks about struggles, right?
Exactly, all his life, his like the dark periods after Rabbeinu's passing, all that stuff.
Okay, that's really interesting.
But it's an amazing thing because you see how Rabbi Nathan was always sameach, no matter what. It's really crazy to see how Rabbeinu made warriors. You know.
Yeah.
It's a real thing. To see Rabbeinu's Talmidim go through so much, literally hell back and forth, and to still come out happy. It's a tremendous thing.
Yeah.
There were Breslauer Hasidim who were killed in the Shoah Chadu Shalom, were sameach to the day of their death. Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter. These tzaddikim, we don't even understand. It's like Rabbi Yisrael Karduner, before he passed away, his Hirura was the teacher of Rabbi Yisrael Dovodeser, who got the Petek. Rabbi Yisrael Karduner, who was his teacher, and by the way, Rabbi Yisrael's Hirura, Rabbi Yisrael Dovodeser, Sabba's Hirura, is Monday night, Tuesday. So Rabbi Yisrael Karduner, his teacher, was the night of Cheshvan. Before he passed away, he said like this. He said, I'm not worried at all about leaving this world. And he was very sick. He got cholera and everything. Rabbi Yisrael Karduner said, with me getting this sickness and passing away, I'll do tikkun for this entire sickness. I will stop the plague. Immediately the outbreak in Israel completely stopped the second he passed away.
What was the sickness?
Cholera.
Wow.
It was very bad at that time. And Rabbi Yisrael Karduner said, with me goes away the sickness. Passed away, completely stopped.
Crazy.
He took it with him. He's like, Rabbi Yisrael Karduner, bro, how do I even describe? He came back after his wife passed away. After he passed away, he came back to do kiddush for his wife.
What do you mean?
Rabbi Yisrael Karduner. Every Friday night, he'd come back to this world to do kiddush for his wife.
Wow.
Rabbi Yisrael Karduner's wife told Rabbi Yisrael, you better not say anything. Until a neighbor found out, he stopped coming. Rabbi Yisrael Karduner, we're talking about people like, 100 years ago, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
this stuff exists. This stuff happened. We have to believe in ourselves. That's the issue. We don't have enough bitachon and trust in ourselves. We don't have emunah in ourselves that we can accomplish this. And why is that? Because we don't have enough emunah in our Rebbe.
It's so true. It's so true. It's like when things are going well, like we'll believe in it, and it's like, and then you just stay to her, just like
Beats you
can't
up,
be
bro.
like that. What do you mean simple all the time? You can't be in simple all the time. Masha, yeah, no way. You know.
He loves messing with us. Be bullying, confusion, make you not be happy, all these things. Don't apply the advice. Even a little bit, it's not worth it. It's not enough. Well, you're going to do a little bit, that's nothing for Hashem. No, we've got the entire point wrong. That's everything for Hashem.
Sure.
Rabbi Natan said, you know what made me Rabbi Natan? The small moments that I grabbed to study and to pray. He said, it's not the big time when I was Kovea Limudim, Kovea Itim. No, it's the small moments I grabbed between this and that. When he used to write Likutei Tefillot quickly between things. When he used to write a letter to his son like this and that. Everything you see Rabbi Natan was very quick.
You told me he would go in the mikvah, boom, boom, boom.
In, out. Rabbi Natan before Tefillah would write a quick letter to his son. Sorry, I have no time. Like, you know what I mean? I'm asuk right now. Sorry, I can't write more because of the Tiyada. Everything Rabbi Natan did not waste a minute. But one thing, Rabbi Natan, what made Rabbi Natan were the small moments he grabbed for Kedusha. Because he was engaging so much in the world, you know?
Yeah.
The small moments he grabbed. 5 minutes here, 3 minutes there, 10 minutes here, 30 minutes here.
Wow.
Hey, we have to steal our minutes. And those things are what makes us us. And Bipshitut, we apply in simplicity. We have to believe in our Rabbi. Rabbi Nachman said, even if you don't believe in the greatness of Hashem, believe me, for I've seen it. And the truth is, it works. Because if you really have emunah in your Rabbi, you understand that because he speaks so highly of Hashem, it increases your emunah in Hashem. So we're working on it. We have to really, when we pick up these farim, to let go on to be like Hashem, help me, to pray before, to pray after, to do the Shem Shamayim Be'emet.
Yeah.
So we can serve Hashem truthfully. That's the most important thing.
Where did we stop? I know I read the whole thing, but...
Wait a second. I'll just finish up this last line, that way we finish.
Yeah.
So we say that the sichot of the Talmidei Chachamim need study. The conversations with Talmidei Chachamim need study. Meaning everything which is needed for the study, for example, lilmod ve'la'asot the kavanah that tzaddik needs to have when he studies and teaches a student. He also needs in a sikha, conversation. Meaning the same condition that tzaddik needs to have whenever he studies Torah and he teaches others Torah, so that he makes sure that the Torah should be forgotten from students who are not proper. That same kavanah needs to apply to his conversations as well.
Oh, so even when he's just talking about
mundane conversation. Which is the idea of sipur masyot. Meaning sipur masyot has infused within this idea.
Yeah.
Those who are proper will remember, those who are improper will forget. And that's all because of the kavanah of the tzaddik, and the tzaddik himself is kadosh in that sense, regardless of whatever the tabit stands. So we'll stop here. Mizrat Hashem. Continue next.